Hi everyone, let's begin with the discussion of the virology segment under this rapid revision. Before we start with all the different viruses, it is very important that we cover the general properties, because honestly telling you, if you cover the general properties well, half of your chapter of virology is already completed, because the introduction of every virus will be settled out here. So let's get going, and I'll start with what is the structure of a virus that you need to know. Of course, what you have in the outermost layer is that going to be of the envelope. So what you have at the extreme out is going to be the envelope over here. Can you see that there are some projections coming out of it? Yes. What would you call these? They are coming from the envelope. So can I call them envelope proteins or peplomers? And shortly, I'll tell you one deadly virus which wasted lives in so many ways, that's COVID, and that has these envelope peplomers or these proteins, which I'll be talking about in a while. So there is an envelope and then there are envelope proteins. After that, I can see that inside there is a genome. Either there will be some RNA or there will be some DNA. So there is a genome inside, and that genome is covered by a capsid. Can you all see this covering? That genome is covered by a capsid. So combine karo, you'll say genome, you'll say ma'am either it is ribonucleic acid or it's deoxyribonucleic acid. So some kind of nucleic acid is present and that is covered by a capsid. So dono ko combine karo, something of a nucleic acid and something as a capsid together, can I call it a nucleocapsid? So this and this together is known as a nucleocapsid. What else? So if I look carefully, outermost, what did you have? You had the envelope. Then over here, what do you have? This is the nucleocapsid. Can I say in between the two, I can see one more layer, and that layer is the tegument. So can I say the tegument is present between the envelope as well as the nucleocapsid? Now the structure is completed. However, do you think the same structure will be there in every virus? Not possible, right? So please remember, there are some viruses which will have the envelope and some will not. So most of them are going to contain the envelope. However, which are the ones which are non-enveloped? I have divided them into a list of DNA viruses and RNA viruses. The DNA and RNA viruses that are non-enveloped, and you are going to learn it by the mnemonic PAP and PARCH. What is PAP and PARCH? So remember, PAP is the mnemonic for DNA viruses and PARCH is the mnemonic for RNA viruses. Let's complete them. Right now you've not done the classification, so you might not know, as to what is the different P's, but abhi ke liye just rat lo and give me 5 more minutes and I'll do the classification also with you. What is PAP and PARCH? PAP is going to be parvovirus, adenovirus and papovavirus. Repeat with me. Parvo, papova and adenovirus. These are the three DNA viruses which are going to be non-enveloped. Whereas what is RNA viruses? RNA virus ka mnemonic kya hai? PARCH. What is PARCH? P for picornavirus, A for astrovirus, R for Rio. Rio is the same as rotavirus, C for calcivirus, and hepatitis A and E, basically the ones that cause gastroenteritis. So what is PARCH? Again, there's picornavirus that you had. Apart from that, you also had astrovirus, Riovirus, calcivirus, hepatitis A as well as hepatitis E. Remember, PAP and PARCH do not have an envelope. Rest all of them have an envelope. So the envelope story is done. Now let me talk about this story over here. That is the entire nucleocapsid. Do you know the nucleocapsid has a kind of a symmetry? Every genome has a symmetry. Sometimes it can look like this. What do you want to call this? Ma'am, when it's going round and round like this, I'll call it helical. Sometimes you will say it's looking like a little bit of a shape. Kuch shape aa raha hai iske andar. That shape is known as icosahedral. So different shapes and symmetries of that nucleocapsid can be there. Let me tell you, all the DNA viruses are icosahedral. So all the DNA viruses are going to be icosahedral except pox virus. You know, pox is a complex symmetry. You can't comment. It's very complex. So how have I learnt it? Complox. I have learnt it as complox, which will tell me that the complex symmetry is present in the pox virus. Okay, other than that, all the viruses are going to be icosahedral symmetry. Coming to the next one is going to be the helical one. So similarly, all the RNA viruses are going to be helical, and I have learned he is Mr. Fabulous. What is he? He will remind me that I'm talking about helical symmetry, and Mr. Fab is the mnemonic. So let's complete this Mr. Fab. We are going to have myxovirus. Next, R always reminds me of rabies. So we are going to have rhabdovirus. F is going to be filovirus, arenavirus and bunyavirus. Mr. Fab are the viruses which are helical. So remember, he for helical and he is Mr. Fabulous. So simple, quick repeat. All the DNA viruses are icosahedral except pox, because pox is complex. It has a complex symmetry. And who is helical? He is Mr. Fabulous. These are the helical symmetry. So coming back, your entire structure seems to be completed. What can I go on with? I can go on with the classification. How do you classify the viruses? Either they will have a DNA or they will have an RNA virus. So DNA or RNA, both will never be present. Either it's a DNA virus or it's an RNA virus. Now, if you look at the RNA virus list, it is very, very long. Do you want to learn it? Nahin, chota wala list. Ma'am, let's learn the smaller list. So let me make you learn the happy small list, and that is DNA viruses. DNA viruses are said to have a happy small list. So this is the happy mnemonic that you have in front of you. First is going to be H for hepadna. Hepadna reminds me of hepatitis. Which hepatitis? The only hepatitis that is a DNA virus, that is going to be hepatitis B. Now we have another one, the very famous herpes viridae. Herpes viridae, of course, has all the things that sound like herpes. Herpes simplex, herpes zoster. Abhi detail mein we will study. Human herpes virus, Epstein-Barr virus and cytomegalovirus are also belonging to the herpes family. So after that comes the A. A is my favorite, Adenoviridae family. Adenovirus is the virus. Simple. So Adenoviridae, and we have adenovirus. Coming to the next, we have P, and in fact we have 4 P's that we have to go ahead with. So the first one is the pox virus. So remember, pox had smallpox, chickenpox, not chickenpox. That is what I wanted you to note, because many students do this mistake. They say, ma'am, pox, okay, smallpox, chickenpox. No. What is chickenpox? Chickenpox is herpes zoster, so not chickenpox. When I say pox, I mean things like smallpox, cowpox. What are those? Vaccinia and variola are things like smallpox and cowpox. And which pox? Molluscum. Remember, not chickenpox. Coming to the next P is Papova viridae. So now when you look at Papova, all the papo words will come, like polyoma, papilloma, BK virus, JC virus, SV40 virus. I'll be telling you all of these in one line details, okay? So please note papo wale words, papilloma, polyoma, all these short form, JC, BK, SV40, all come over here. One more P that we have, simple one, parvoviridae, parvovirus, easy one. And last one, which you already studied, is a bacteriophage, because I know that bacteriophage, remember what was the shape of a bacteriophage? It was the tadpole shaped structure. And do you remember where in general microbiology have I taught you bacteriophage? I have taught you bacteriophage in the very, very famous, yes, a process that is known as transduction. That is where I am going to teach you this. So I have taught you, in fact, in your general microbiology. So repeating, we have Hepadna viridae, herpes viridae, adenovirus, then you have the famous pox virus, papova virus, papova, polyoma, all of those. Then you have parvovirus, and finally you have bacteriophage. So DNA viruses are happy, and now everything other than this is going to come under RNA viruses. You've done the classification, okay? Now you go on to which of them is big and which of them is small. So which of them is the largest, measuring 300 nanometers, and that is the pox virus family. So remember, pox is the largest, and which is the smallest, and by smallest I mean just 220 nanometers. 20 nanometers means parvovirus. So can I say the size of viruses ranges from 20 nanometers all the way up till 300 nanometers. 20 nanometers kaun sa wala aayega? Ma'am, the tiny little parvovirus is going to be 20 nanometers, and 300 nanometers is going to be the pox virus. This is the size of the virus on the whole. But if I ask you what is the size of the genome, what do you understand by that question, guys? Size of the genome means the size of the DNA, RNA, the nucleocapsid. Uska size kya hai? So who has the largest genome? That is your HIV, that is retrovirus, that has the largest genome. Whereas who has the smallest genome? Best answer will be hepatitis D. If hepatitis D is not given in your options, then you will mark hepatitis B. So especially for FMG students, this came as a question in one of the years, important for NEET and INI also. If how it came in the previous years was, they asked you who has the smallest genome, and hepatitis D was not in the options. Then I had to select hepatitis B by default. But if hepatitis D is written in the options, then I will go with D ideally. So please remember, it is hepatitis D followed, if not there, then by hepatitis B. So largest genome is retrovirus and smallest is going to be hepatitis D. Now coming back. So you've done the size of viruses, you've done the size of the genome. Now we can come down to the shape of certain viruses. And I've got a list of these viruses for which you have to know the shape. But how can we learn the shape like this? We should look at diagrams now. Please, did you realize that all the sizes were in nanometers? Nanometer matlab light microscope will not be able to see it. I will have to use an electron microscope to see it. So let's not write it. Let's see it. Directly dekhte hain. Let me begin. Which is the virus? See, black and white photos. Why black and white photos? Because I'm dealing with electron microscopy. It shows you a bullet. Which virus looks like a bullet? So bullet is going to kill. If you shoot someone with a bullet, that person's gonna die. Rabies is also going to make a person die. So bullet kills, rabies kills. Bullet shaped is rabies virus. Coming to the next one, the one that needs no introduction, the one that has wasted everyone's life through and through, and that is the crown one, the one which has these petal-like papillomas. That is of course going to be the COVID or the coronavirus. Coming to the next one, the one that is going to look like a brick. Can you see this is looking like a brick over here? And what is inside the brick? If you look carefully inside the brick, there is a dumbbell that is present. So please note, there is a brick and there is a dumbbell. What is this virus? This is going to be the pox virus. How have I learned it? That instead of brick, can I write box? Yes, I have learned pox is a box. Pox is going to be a box-shaped virus and the box is very, very heavy. Why is the box heavy? Because the box has a dumbbell inside it. Always learn it like this. Coming to the next one. What is this looking like? A bowl of spaghetti pasta. What is that virus? Ebola virus. Easy way of learning. Ebola is going to look like a bowl of spaghetti or filamentous. Coming to the next one. What is the one that is looking like a round wheel? So I have learnt it as wheel, or you can also learn it as the rotating wheel. You can learn it as the rotating wheel. And why did I say rotating wheel? Because that will remind you of rota. That is rotavirus. In fact, I'll tell you one very nice story for this. That way you will never ever forget. Have you all seen those social advertisements on, especially which are made by agencies outside India? How they depict India. If someone has to make some, organization or some Hollywood or some movie has to be made on India, how do they depict India, which is so wrong and so incorrect? But how do they depict India as a rural country with a lot of slums? That is the kind of depiction they do, and they always show that one scene where there is a kid, a tiny little 5-year-old kid who's running on the roads with a stick and a wheel in his hand. All of us have seen that, and he's rotating the wheel. Bas wo rota hua bachcha. You have to remember that rota hua bachcha. The rota hua, why? Because the rotavirus kid is really gonna cry a lot. Because what does it cause in children? Why am I giving the example of the rota hua bachcha? They will always show you a rota hua bachcha in the slums who is doing diarrhea. A rota hua bachcha in the slums will be shown. He's playing with that wheel and he's doing diarrhea. So diarrhea hoga, bachcha hoga, rota virus hai, and that wheel that he is moving, all that story comes together. That is how you learn the entire rota virus. Okay, coming to the next, my favorite, because it looks like a star. If it looks like a star, I will name it like a star, and that is going to be astrovirus. Coming to the next, the one that looks like a spaceship. Spaceship matlab, it is going to look like as if aliens have come. So alien agar aaya hai, that means it is alien wala. I'm only writing it. Please, this is not written in the textbooks. This is our mnemonic. Alien wala matlab adenovirus. Alien wala is going to be adenovirus. Finally, the last one. Again, books mention it as rod, that okay, it looks like a rod. I have learnt it as cigarette. Why have I learnt it as cigarette? Because that helps me learn the name of the organism. It is a tobacco mosaic virus. So tobacco will obviously remind me of cigarette, right? So tobacco mosaic virus is going to look like a rod or cigarette. If you want, you can quickly revise with me. How was rabies? Rabies was looking like a bullet, ma'am. It's a bullet. Rabies kills, bullet kills. Pox is a box with a dumbbell. It's a brick-shaped virus, and that brick is also going to have a dumbbell inside it. How is Ebola? Ebola is like a bowl of spaghetti. It is like a filamentous organism. Tobacco mosaic virus, exactly like a cigarette. It's like a rod. Coming to adeno was that space vehicle. Space vehicle means alien aega, wo wala. Corona, I don't need to tell you, petal-like papillomas, which everyone knows. Rotavirus, that story of the rotating wheel that everyone knows about. And finally, Astro requires no description because it's going to be star-shaped. All your shapes and structures are also done. Now we move on to the rules and regulations that you have to follow in the virology. What are the rules and regulation, and why do I have this Bollywood actress in the picture suddenly? I'll tell you. I will tell you some rules for DNA viruses, then I will tell you their exceptions. Similarly, I will tell you some rules for RNA viruses and I will tell you their exceptions. So DNA se start kare. All the DNA viruses are double-stranded. All the DNA viruses are going to be double-stranded except parvovirus, because parvovirus is the only DNA virus which is single-stranded. Why have I written or why have I shown? Now you know why have I made Aishwarya Rai? Because I want you to remember from the movie Devdas the character of Paro. Do you remember Paro was left alone? In the end, Devdas also died, and in the end, she did not even have her husband. So Paro was left alone. First and foremost, Paro will remind you that, okay, we are talking about parvovirus. Second, you will be reminded that, oh, she's crying because she's left alone. She is the single-stranded DNA. She has the smallest group. She's left without anyone. So do you remember? She has the smallest size. Parvovirus is the smallest size, only 20 nanometers. And one more thing that I'm telling you, Paro is crying a lot. As a result, her cheeks have become red. Paro is crying so much that her cheeks have become red, because later on you will study that parvovirus causes a slabbed cheek appearance, which I'm going to teach you in a while. That is the entire story of Paro that you have to know. So repeating, Paro is left alone. So she is single-stranded. Paro is also the smallest. That is why she's crying. She's crying a lot. Her cheeks have become red. So reddish color rash, slabbed cheek appearance is also seen with parvovirus, and DNA virus and exceptions are done. Similarly, you are going to have RNA virus. So pehle to let me tell you the rule. RNA virus ka rule is that there will be a single copy of single-stranded RNA. So one copy, one strand, and it does not have any segments. It is unsegmented. So single copy, single strand, no segments, except is what I want to tell you. So please remember, all of them have one copy. However, retrovirus has two copies. Do you remember the example of retrovirus? HIV doesn't have one copy. HIV has two copies. How will you learn it? From today onwards, you will learn it as Red2 virus. Because retro ki jagah Red2 kar do. Red2 will always remind you that it has two copies of RNA. Usually which RNA is there? Usually single-stranded RNA is there. But ma'am, there is one exception to it, and that exception is the Rio or the rotavirus. What is rotavirus? Let me now tell you. Rotavirus is the double-stranded, the only double-stranded RNA virus. How did I learn it? If you remember, I just told you rotavirus was that rota hua bachcha. Why? Because the rota hua bachcha was having diarrhea. So remember, जो diarrhea वाला है, that is the double-stranded RNA virus. The diarrhea वाला rotavirus, that is the only double-stranded. All the others are single-stranded. Next, all of them are unsegmented. Means if the RNA looks like this, one segment. But I am saying that there is an exception called Bira. Everyone knows Bira is a very famous so-called alcoholic beverage, which basically means that Bira, once someone consumes alcohol, he is going to break off in pieces. He will fall here and there. So now the RNA will not be unsegmented. Now the RNA is going to have certain segments. So basically, if you consume alcohol, you will break into pieces. You will fall here and there. So all of them are unsegmented. But Bira, alcohol consume hua to segments hoga. Firstly, what is Bira? Bira stands for B for Bunya virus. Then we have I for influenza. Now many students ask me, ma'am, kaun sa wala influenza? Orthomyxoviridae or paramyxoviridae? So remember orthomyxoviridae. That is why many students, instead of learning it as Bira, also learn it as Bora. So Bira, Bora, your wish. Now we come to the next one. That is going to be the Rio or the rotavirus. Imagine that rota hua bachcha is also having Bira alcohol. And finally we have the very, very famous arena virus. Okay, so now coming back, we have Bunya, we have influenza, which is orthomyxoviridae, Rio or rota, and arena. How many segments do they have? Dekho, ma'am, Bunya to looks like a 3, B looks like a 3, so that has 3 segments. I can make an 8, so that has 8 segments. Repeating, B looks like a 3, so I am going to make 3 segments. Then I is going to look like an 8, so I am going to make 8 segments. If I combine these two, what is 3 plus 8? 11. So how many segments is Rio virus going to have? 11. And what is 1 plus 1? 2. How many segments is Arena virus going to have? 2 segments. So remember 3 segments, 8 segments, add kara, so Rio virus has 11 segments, and add kara, that has Arena virus 2 segments. So if you have Bira alcohol, you will break into segments. Otherwise, all the other viruses are unsegmented. So repeating, all of them have 1 copy, but Red 2 virus has 2 copies. All of them are single-stranded, but diarrhea wala is double-stranded. So Rio rotavirus is double-stranded. All of them are unsegmented, but Bira virus is going to be segmented. I hope that is going to be okay with everyone, because now we can move forward and talk about how are you going to grow the viruses. That is also important. Finish it off over here only. How are you planning to grow the viruses? So please remember, in virology, you don't have the blood culture, chocolate agar, blood agar, nutrient agar. These agars are not there, because viruses you don't grow in culture media. Viruses either you can grow in an animal, number one, so put it into an animal, or you can grow it in an embryonated egg, because of some animal or of human, some embryonated egg, or you can grow it in cell lines. What is common to all? That ma'am, you basically, virus requires some kind of cellular support. You can't just grow it with the help of blood or chocolate or egg or serum like you were doing for bacteria. Viruses don't need just food, they need proper cells. Either you give them the cells in the form of an animal or an egg, or you give them some cell lines in the lab. So cell chahiye, that is when a virus will grow. So let me take the example of animal number 1. So for example, if you inject something in the brain of a suckling mice, let me take an example. Coxsackie A and B were injected in the brain of a suckling mice. How will I get to know whether it is Coxsackie A or Coxsackie B? So please remember, Coxsackie A is going to cause flaccid paralysis, and Coxsackie B is going to cause spastic paralysis. And how did I learn which is flaccid and which is spastic? I simply know, go alphabetically. A comes before B, तो पहले A आता है, फिर B आता है. Similarly, F comes first and S comes later. So simple, A comes first, B comes later, F comes first, S comes later. So that is how you arrange them in alphabetical order. That is how you grow it in animals. How do I grow it in embryonated egg? Firstly, this is how an embryonated egg looks like. क्या क्या parts होते हैं? Ma'am, there is a chorioallantoic membrane, that is CAM. Then I can see there is a yolk sac that is present over here. You can grow it in the yolk sac. Then there is something known as an amniotic cavity. Then there is something known as an allantoic cavity. 4 things are there: chorioamniotic membrane or chorioallantoic membrane, yolk sac, amniotic cavity, allantoic cavity. So what do you grow, and what are these pictures shown? I have shown one picture of a car. Number 1, car ka koi photo hai, and some best friend, yaar, yari, that kind of picture is there. So let me repeat it. If I ask you, what do you grow in a yolk sac? So you will say that, ma'am, there are boys, they are roaming around in a car. Car mein roam karte karte, when they are roaming around, they are roaming around in a luxurious car. So what is their usual swag going to be? They are going to be saying yo-yo. So you are having yo-yo for yolk sac. They are roaming around in a luxurious car. And what is car? Remember, A for which virus? Arbovirus, and C and R for 2 bacteria which are grown in the yolk sac, chlamydia and rickettsia. Remember, so yolk sac, yo-yo, car, matlab it is going to be the chlamydia, rickettsia and arbovirus. In case you forget in the exam, A se kya tha? A se arbo tha, adeno tha. So remember, it is A car. That will give you a hint. It is arbovirus that you have to go in for. So yo-yo kara, car mein. Okay, now we say that, okay, what is in the chorioallantoic membrane? CAM mein, so we have VVHH. What is VVHH? We have vaccinia, variola, HSV1 and HSV2. So like I told you, in the chorioallantoic membrane, we have the VVHH, vaccinia, variola, HSV1, HSV2. Now look at these two. Look at the amniotic membrane and the allantoic membrane. So you will say, ma'am, allantoic mein to, if you look at allantoic cavity, you have grown, number 1, yellow fever. Secondly, you have grown, or there has been a vaccine preparation of influenza. There has been a vaccine preparation of influenza, and there has also been growth of rabies. So growth of rabies virus is also done. So please remember that all of the boys, number one, boys se related hai. All of the boys do what? If you put them in a car, they will do yo-yo. If you put them together, if all of them have come together, you will say, oh, they become best friends, ma'am. Boys become friends instantly. They just need to shake hands and they are friends after that. Best friends for life. So all of them together become yari. Means yellow fever, rabies virus or yellow virus, rabies virus and influenza ka vaccine preparation, not influenza ka growth. Influenza ka growth happens in the amniotic cavity. So please note this difference. That is why I'm saying boys are very protective about their yari. You can't say anything about a boy gang to anyone, isn't it? So boys are very protective about their yari. Will give you a hint that you are making the protection for influenza over here. You are making the protection for influenza or the vaccine for influenza over here. But in amniotic cavity, you are growing the influenza virus. So coming to the summary. Chorioallantoic membrane, vaccinia, variola, HSV1, HSV2. Yolk sac, ma'am, yo-yo kara, car, chlamydia, arbovirus, rickettsia. Amniotic cavity में influenza virus is grown, but allantoic cavity में yellow fever virus, rabies virus and influenza vaccine is grown. And that is the summary of the entire egg. One very difficult topic that you have. I hope we have sorted it. So animal growth done, embryonic or embryonated egg growth done. But actually what is practical is that in the lab we use cell lines. How many types of cell lines do we have? Primary, secondary and continuous. Means primary will allow cell matlab division. Primary will allow cell to divide for approximately 5 to 10 times. Secondary will allow a little more, 10 to 50 times. Continuous will allow unlimited. The name only tells you, no, continuous divisions will happen. Very difficult to learn, ma'am. How should I learn which cell line is coming under primary, secondary, continuous? This is not important for FMG students, but this table is important for NEET and INI-CT. So please note, for primary cell lines, you have the kidney of the monkey, which is used as a cell, or you can use the amniotic from a human, or you can use the embryo of a chick. So you realize कि मैम primary cell line में ना सब कुछ primitive use हुआ है, like the amniotic which is from the fetus in the humans or the embryo of a chick. So everything primitive, fetus, embryonic, that has been used. And rhesus kidney, rhesus तो मतलब monkey तो anyway they are primates, monkeys are our ancestors, so they are also very primitive. Anything primitive mentioned will come under primary cell line. But if I mention human fibroblast cell line, इसमें कोई fetus, embryo ऐसा कोई word नहीं है, that becomes a secondary cell line. And that is important because human fibroblast cell line has been used for the growth of cytomegalovirus, a very famous and an expected question. So repeating once again, anything that is to do with amniotic, embryo, fetus or monkeys, all primary. Human fibroblast cell line with this M and W, MRC5 and WI38, these are secondary. And after that, no matter what is written, HeLa, Hep2, KB, McCoy, Vero, Detroit, BHK, Chang, CILK, all of these come under continuous. I don't have to learn that list. Primitive चीजों का नाम याद करो. M, W and anything with related to human fibroblast is secondary and everything else becomes continuous. We are done with the cell lines. These are the three ways by which any kind of virus can be grown. The last part of general virology that you have to know is what are the different inclusion bodies that you have. So quickly, which are the ones in the cytoplasm, and then you'll tell me about which are the ones that are going to be present in the nucleus. So let's get going. In the cytoplasm, Negri bodies, let me show you a picture. You can see that, yeah, this must be a cell and these are the Negri bodies. Do I need to ask you this, that Negri bodies are seen in actually which kind of virus? They are seen in rabies, but in which part of the brain are they seen? So definitely they are seen in rabies, but they are seen in the hippocampus and the cerebellum. These are the two places where they are noted, in the hippocampus and the cerebellum. Coming to the Paschen and Guarnieri bodies, all time confusion. Some books say variola, vaccinia. Kya confusion hai? So please remember Guarnieri, or if I write vaccinia, vaccinia is going to have lots of C's which I can easily convert into G's. So remember Guarnieri bodies are seen in vaccinia and then Paschen bodies become for variola. Coming to Bollinger bodies, very easy to learn. Whenever you put a ball, कोई football, basketball, कोई भी game होता है उसमें क्या होता है? Foul. So Bollinger bodies are seen in foul pox. Bollinger bodies, always remember, कोई भी football होगा तो उसमें foul होगा. Bollinger bodies are seen in foul pox. Molluscum contagiosum shows you what bodies. Molluscum contagiosum, let me show this to you separately. This is a case of molluscum contagiosum and I am integrating this with dermatology also. Molluscum contagiosum usually presents with umbilicated lesions. Molluscum contagiosum usually presents with umbilicated lesions. Umbilicated matlab there is a depression in the center. Depression. Why? Because if you press it, some curdy material is going to be extruded. There is some curdy material that is going to come out. So chota sa depression hota hai. If you press it, some curdy material will come out. How does it look like under the microscope? You can very well see it is a cup-shaped lesion. It is a cup-shaped lesion, and if you go deep into the cup and you zoom in into the cup, you will realize that there are some round bodies. What are these guys? These are the famous bodies of molluscum contagiosum, and these bodies are classically known as the HP bodies. So let's know the full form. What is HP? HP stands for Henderson-Patterson bodies. HP is going to stand for Henderson-Patterson bodies. And please note, now again, we write it as HP, but I want to tell all the students preparing for INI-CET that Henderson-Patterson bodies are going to be positive for a stain called the floxine tartarate stain. Very, very important question that you get in the exam. Floxine tartarate stain is going to be positive in these Henderson-Patterson body. So coming into this, I hope everyone is settled. Umbilicated lesions, material will come out microscopically cup-shaped with Henderson-Patterson bodies, and P for Patterson, P for floxine tartarate stain, that is going to be positive. So coming back, what does molluscum show you? Molluscum tends to show you HP bodies. All of these were in the cytoplasm, because now I will ask you which are the bodies which you see in the nucleus. Whenever they are in the nucleus, you call them Cowdrey type A, Cowdrey type B, and there's a very famous mnemonic for this that you study, that is Hey Bap. What is Hey Bap? So firstly, of course, pick up Cowdrey type A and Cowdrey type B. Okay? So Cowdrey type A are going to be seen in herpes and yellow fever. In herpes and in yellow fever. So remember, yellow fever में कौन सा bodies? Tories bodies. Remember how I'm writing it? Yellow fever में we are going to have Tories bodies. Okay, yellow fever done. What is herpes? Herpes में usually lips पे lesion होता है ना. You must have heard of herpes labialis. तो herpes में lips पे lesion होता है. That is why I have learnt it as lips. Leib-Schultz bodies are noted. Simple. So remember, herpes is going to show you Leib-Schultz bodies, and yellow fever is going to show you Tories bodies. Coming to BAP, that is who has Cowdrey type B. Cowdrey type B are seen in adenovirus and poliovirus. Adenovirus and poliovirus show you Cowdrey type B. All of these are going to be in the nucleus. I hope that is okay with everyone, because now I will ask you, both intranuclear and intracytoplasmic inclusion bodies are seen in. So remember, there are two organisms. One is going to be measles and the other is cytomegalovirus. Let me show you their pictures. I think cytomegalovirus to everyone knows. Cytomegalovirus shows you the very famous owl-eye bodies. So if you go into it, you will realize that yes, there are intranuclear inclusions also. That is what gives it owl-eye. And there is a bunch of intracytoplasmic inclusions also. Both of these are noted in the same owl-eye. So cytomegalovirus, intranuclear plus intracytoplasmic. What is measles? Come on, measles mein you know one giant cell from pathology. Measles mein kaun sa wala giant cell? We have learnt it is the Warthin-Finkelday giant cells. And yes, Warthin-Finkelday giant cells, if you look into this giant cell, you will again visualize there are lots of dots, lots of pink color dots that are present in the nucleus and in the cytoplasm. So it's going to show you intranuclear plus intracytoplasmic inclusion. So repeating once again, majority of the list that I taught you, all of it was intracytoplasmic. Then I taught you a mnemonic called Hey Bap. Hey Bap is going to be intranuclear. And then two of them which are going to show you both intracytoplasmic and intranuclear are cytomegalovirus as well as measles. Now with that, you finish off. You might feel that you have done some 30 odd slides of virology, but trust me, you have done half of virology, because this is where you get maximum questions and this is what sorts all the difficult part of virology for you.